But I want to tell you, Allison, so I think the hardest part of his decline, if you will, is he'd be great for a few years at a time, really taking care of himself. And I'm so grateful that my kids got to know that guy too. Um, but that's why we started our foundation. Because Greg, I remember when Quinn was 2, we had an intervention for Greg. And, it's really hard to see your grown brother. His chin was going like he was a little boy. And I flew out to Hazelden with him, and we just held hands. He had these big hands. And we held hands, and he just said, I really appreciate you, sis. We're very close. And I explain it like the loss of him. Sometimes I feel like I'm missing a limb, But anyway, so he went to Hazelden.
Well, I just want to say something about that for a second, because I think that that's really poetic and beautiful. But I also think that there was something to me so endearing about Greg, because he could speak so articulately about his own journey and his own struggles. And so like flying on your way to Hazelden, holding his hand and him saying, I really appreciate you, that already shows a level of like perspective that he had. I mean, I've been involved in some interventions. They're not always thankful on the way to Hazelden,
Right.
like wrestling them into the car and tackling them into the car is not, you don't always get somebody with that level of insight and perspective. But again, that is part of what I always found super compelling about Greg, is that he could speak about, once on the other side of it, or once he was diagnosed, he could speak so fluently about his own challenges and mental health struggles.
But yeah, so when he was there, and he was there for, I don't know, 6 weeks or whatever it was, when he came back, he was just saying, oh, sis, we have to help these kids. It's so sad. And that's so Greg. Like, and I just would, I'd take his face and I'd say, listen, pal, I want you to help you. I mean, you got to keep doing. And I said, but that was just so him. So, he's, after he retired from football, he coached kids, but truly it was more about the kid than football. He really wanted them to be okay and heard as a person. But anyway, so his whole life he always cared about people, and even the underdog. These stories that people would call and write me letters after Greg died, I wasn't surprised at all by them, but it was, it's just like, yep, that was Greg. I'm glad that you got to know him.
Do you think, because I sometimes when I talked to him, it sounded like he thought that playing football at the level that he did, and being a professional NFL football player, that contributed to some of his mental health issues. Do you think that that's true?
Maybe. I mean, I think it's a lot of pressure. And for instance, that anxiety, that performance anxiety that he had, it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And we did donate his brain to the Boston University for CTE study.
That's so wonderful.
It was a hard conversation,
so...
but I know he'd want us to.
I know he would too.